When humanity found what should never exist, Captain Marcus Chen stared at the readings on his screen for the third time, hoping they would make more sense. The mining vessel Horizon's Edge had been working the asteroid fields of Kepler 442 for 6 months without incident, but now their sensors were picking up something that shouldn't exist. Sophia, run a full diagnostic on the sensor array, Marcus called to his chief engineer. These readings have to be wrong. Engineer Sophia Reyes looked up from her console, her dark hair escaping from its ponytail after 12 hours of continuous work. I've already run diagnostics twice, Captain. The sensors are working perfectly. Whatever's out there is generating energy signatures I've never seen before. The bridge of the Horizon's Edge was cramped but efficient, designed for a crew of 8. To operate a mining vessel in the outer reaches of human space. Marcus had commanded this ship for 4 years, and his crew knew him as a steady, practical man who didn't believe in mysteries. But the data streaming across his screens was challenging. Everything he thought he knew about physics. Show me the visual, Marcus ordered. The main screen flickered to life, displaying the asteroid field where they had been mining rare earth elements. At first, everything looked normal. Massive chunks of rock drifted through space, lit by the distant light of Kepler 442's star. But then Marcus saw it. Floating between 2 large asteroids was something that made his breath catch in his throat. It was a ship, but unlike anything in the human fleet databases. The vessel was enormous, easily 3 times the size of Earth's largest battlecruiser. Its hull seemed to flow like liquid mercury, covered in geometric patterns that hurt to look at directly. Most disturbing of all, the ship appeared to be flickering. In and out of existence, sometimes solid and visible, sometimes translucent like a ghost. What in the hell is that thing? Whispered Lieutenant Kai Nakamura from the pilot station. The former Earth Defense Force fighter pilot had seen plenty of strange things during his military service, but nothing like this. Dr. Rebecca Walsh, the expedition's quantum physicist, moved closer to the screen. Her analytical mind was already working to process what she was seeing. The energy patterns suggest some kind of quantum phase shifting. The ship appears to be existing in multiple dimensional states simultaneously. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. Are you saying it's not entirely in our reality? That's exactly what I'm saying, Rebecca replied, her voice filled with wonder and fear. According to these readings, that ship exists partially in our dimension and partially in what appears to be parallel quantum states. It's scientifically impossible, but there it is. The communications officer, Ensign David Park, suddenly straightened at his station. Captain, I'm picking up a signal from the object. It's not using any known transmission protocol, but our computers are somehow interpreting it. Put it through, Marcus ordered, though every instinct told him this was dangerous. The bridge speakers crackled with static, and then a voice emerged. But it wasn't quite a voice. It was more like thoughts being translated into sound, carrying harmonics that seemed to resonate inside their minds rather than their ears. Consciousness detected. Human neural patterns recognized. This vessel has waited long for minds capable of comprehension. You seek what lies within stone and metal. We offer something far greater. The crew exchanged nervous glances. Marcus stepped forward, his training taking over despite the impossible situation. This is Captain Marcus Chen of the Earth vessel Horizon's Edge. Identify yourself. Identity is a limitation we transcended long ago. We are the echo of those who came before. We are the possibility of what you might become. Your species stands at the threshold of extinction or evolution. We offer choice. Before Marcus could respond, Ensign Park's face went pale. Captain, long-range sensors are detecting massive objects approaching human space. Hundreds of them, moving faster than anything in our fleet. The main screen split, showing both the mysterious ship and the sensor data from the edge of human territory. Marcus felt his blood turn to ice as he saw the formation approaching Earth's outer colonies. The objects were clearly artificial, and their size suggested a technology far beyond human capabilities. Estimated time to reach the outer colonies, Marcus asked, though he dreaded the answer. At current speed, 17 days, Park replied. Captain, these aren't exploration vessels. The formation and approach vectors suggest a full-scale invasion fleet. The voice from the strange ship spoke again, somehow conveying sadness despite its alien nature. The hegemony comes. They have consumed civilizations across countless systems. Your weapons cannot touch their shields. Your armor cannot stop their weapons. Without evolution, humanity will join the silence that was once vibrant life. Dr. Walsh was frantically working at her station, running calculations and cross-referencing data. Captain, I need to get closer to that ship. The quantum signatures it's generating might hold the key to understanding how it works. Are you insane? Sophia called out. We don't know anything about that thing. It could vaporize us the moment we get close. Or it could be humanity's only chance of survival. Rebecca shot back. Look at those invasion readings. Whatever's coming, our current technology isn't going to stop it. Marcus stared at the twin displays. On one side, an impossible ship that defied every law of physics he'd ever learned. On the other, an approaching alien fleet that would likely spell the end of human independence, if not human existence entirely. The choice was between certain doom and the unknown. Set course for the anomalous vessel, he ordered. But keep our weapons charged and be ready to jump to hyperspace at the first sign of hostility. As the horizon's edge approached the mysterious ship, the quantum fluctuations grew stronger. Equipment throughout the mining vessel began operating more efficiently. The lights burned brighter and steadier. Even the air recycling systems seemed to hum with improved performance. It's like the ship is optimizing our technology just by being near it, Sophia reported in amazement. Our fusion reactor is operating at 110% efficiency, but all safety parameters remain normal. The alien ship grew larger on their screens as they approached. Up close, the flowing patterns on its hull were even more hypnotic. They seemed to shift and change, creating optical illusions that made the crew's eyes water if they stared too long. Captain, Dr. Walsh said quietly, I'm reading massive quantum computers throughout that vessel, but they're not running programs. In any conventional sense, they're processing something much more fundamental. Like what? Reality itself. That ship isn't just using quantum mechanics. It's actively manipulating the fundamental structure of space-time. The voice spoke again, now seeming to come from inside their minds rather than through the speakers. Dock with us. Let consciousness meet consciousness. Learn what your species must become to survive what approaches. Marcus looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. They were scared, but he could also see curiosity and determination. In their eyes, these weren't just miners and scientists. They were explorers, the kind of humans who ventured into the unknown because they had to know what was out there. Take us in, he ordered, as the horizon's edge approached the alien ship's docking bay. The mining vessel was surrounded by a field of energy that felt warm and welcoming. The docking process was unlike anything they had experienced. Instead of mechanical clamps and airlocks, the two ships seemed to merge on a quantum level, their hulls flowing together like water. Atmospheric readings are normal in the docking area, Park reported. Whatever's over there, it wants us to be able to breathe. The crew gathered in the airlock, wearing full environmental suits despite the apparently safe atmosphere. Marcus led the way, followed by Dr. Walsh, Lieutenant Nakamura, and Sophia. They left the rest of the crew aboard their ship with orders to retreat if anything went wrong. The interior of the alien ship was beyond description. The corridors seemed to extend infinitely in all directions, defying the external dimensions of the vessel. The walls pulsed with gentle light that somehow conveyed emotions of peace and ancient wisdom. "The spatial geometry is impossible," Dr. Walsh whispered, her instruments going haywire as they tried to map their surroundings. "This ship is larger on the inside than the outside. It's like someone folded space itself to create more room." They walked through corridors that seemed to reshape themselves to accommodate their presence. Eventually, they reached what appeared to be a control room, though it bore no resemblance to any human bridge. Instead of control panels and screens, the room contained flowing sculptures of light and energy that responded to their thoughts. In the center of the room stood a figure that might once have been humanoid, but had evolved into something more. Its body seemed to be composed of the same flowing energy as the ship itself, and when it spoke, its words formed directly in their minds. "Welcome, young consciousness. I am the last remnant of the Ascended Ones, the species that built this vessel. Before we transcended physical form, we faced the same choice your species now confronts. Remain bound by the limitations of matter and energy, or evolve beyond such constraints." Marcus found his voice, though speaking to a being of pure energy seemed surreal. "What happened to your people? We chose transcendence. Our consciousness merged with the quantum substrate of reality itself, but we left this ship as a gift for those who might follow our path. It waits for minds capable of the necessary evolution." Dr. Walsh stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overcoming her fear. "How does it work? The quantum phase shifting, the spatial distortions, the reality manipulation?" The being's form pulsed with what might have been amusement. "Your question assumes technology in the traditional sense. This ship is not built, it is grown, not programmed, but taught. It learns from consciousness itself, adapting and evolving, with each mind that bonds with its systems." "Bonds?" Lieutenant Nakamura asked, though something told him he already knew the answer. "To operate this vessel, consciousness must merge with its quantum matrix. The boundary between mind and machine dissolves. The pilot becomes the ship, and the ship becomes an extension of will itself. But the process changes you. You will still be human, but you will also be more than human." Sophia was studying the energy patterns flowing through the walls. "What about the approaching fleet? You said our weapons can't touch them. The hegemony uses brute force technology. Larger weapons, stronger shields, more power. They have conquered through overwhelming superiority for 10,000 years. But they have never faced consciousness that has learnt to treat reality as a tool rather than a limitation." The being moved closer, and Marcus felt his mind expanding as alien knowledge flowed into his consciousness. He saw visions of the hegemony fleet, massive warships that could crack planets with their weapons. He saw their previous conquests, entire civilizations reduced to slavery or extinction. But he also saw glimpses of what this ship could do. weapons that fired probability rather than energy, shields that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, the ability to be in several places at once, or to exist in a quantum superposition until the optimal moment to act. The choice is yours, the being said. Return to your people and face extinction with conventional weapons. Or evolve and give your species a chance to join the community of transcendent civilizations. Marcus looked at his crew. In their eyes, he saw the same mixture of terror and hope that he felt. They were being offered godlike power, but at the cost of their humanity as they knew it. How many of us would need to bond with the ship? Dr. Walsh asked. 5 consciousness streams to maintain stability. 1 to serve as primary will, others to handle specific functions, navigation, weapons, engineering, communications, and tactical analysis. Marcus felt the weight of decision settling on his shoulders. Earth needed to know about the approaching invasion, but they also needed to know about this impossible opportunity. We need to return to human space. Our people must be warned. Time grows short. The hegemony fleet accelerates. But yes, carry word of what you have learned. Bring those willing to evolve. The ship will wait. As they returned to the horizon's edge, Marcus's mind raced with the implications of what they had discovered. In 17 days, humanity would face extinction, or evolution. The choice would not be his alone, but he knew that the future of his species might depend on their willingness to become something more than human. The mining vessel detached from the alien ship and jumped to hyperspace, carrying news that would change everything. Behind them, the quantum vessel faded back into its multiple dimensional states, waiting patiently for humanity's decision. Asterisk, when physics became humanity's weapon. The emergency session of Earth's Defense Council had been going on for 6 hours, and Admiral Patricia Stone felt the weight of humanity's future pressing down on her shoulders. The holographic displays around the war room showed the approaching hegemony fleet in terrifying detail. 1,200 warships, each one larger than anything in the human arsenal. The mining vessel Horizon's Edge will arrive at Lunar Station in 3 hours, reported General Harrison, his weathered face showing the strain of the past week. Captain Chun's preliminary report is difficult to believe. Admiral Stone studied the tactical displays again. Earth's combined fleet consisted of exactly 47 warships, most of them patrol vessels, never designed for major combat. Against 1,200 alien ships with superior technology, conventional warfare would be suicide. Difficult to believe or not, it might be our only option, she replied. Dr. Walsh's quantum analysis of the alien ship's energy signatures has been confirmed by our best scientists. Whatever that thing is, it operates on principles beyond our current understanding. The blast doors to the war room opened, and Captain Marcus Chen entered, still wearing his mining coveralls. 3 days of hyperspace travel had left dark circles under his eyes, but his expression was determined. Behind him walked Dr. Rebecca Walsh, Lieutenant Kai Nakamura, and Engineer Sophia Reyes. Captain Chen, Admiral Stone, rose to greet him. Your report has caused quite a stir. Some of my advisors think you suffered from hyperspace hallucinations. Marcus managed a tired smile. Admiral, I wish that were true, but the energy readings don't lie. Neither does the fact that the hegemony fleet will be here in 14 days. Dr. Walsh stepped forward, carrying a datapad filled with calculations. Admiral, I've run the numbers a dozen times. Our conventional weapons will have 0 effectiveness against their shield technology. Their energy output exceeds our total planetary power generation by a factor of 50. What about nuclear weapons? Quantum torpedoes? Asked General Harrison. They won't even scratch their holes, Lieutenant Nakamura replied. I've seen combat, General. I know what effective weapons look like. What we have won't even slow them. Down, Admiral Stone walked to the main display, which showed the mysterious alien ship waiting in the Kepler 442 system. Tell me about this consciousness bonding process. What exactly would happen to the volunteers? Dr. Walsh consulted her data. Based on our limited observations, the human mind would merge with the ship's quantum matrix. The volunteers would retain their memories and personalities, but their consciousness would expand to process information in ways that shouldn't be possible. You're talking about turning people into something inhuman, said Dr. Foster, the Council's chief scientist. The ethical implications alone, the ethical implications of extinction are worse, Marcus interrupted. Admiral, that ship showed us visions of what the hegemony does to conquered species. The lucky ones become slave labor. The unlucky ones become food. A heavy silence fell over the room. Admiral Stone had read the full reports from previous hegemony. Conquests recovered from the wreckage of dead civilizations. The aliens didn't just defeat their enemies. They consumed everything about them. Assuming we proceed with this plan, Admiral Stone said carefully, who would volunteer for such a procedure? Without hesitation, Marcus stepped forward. I will. The ship responded to my consciousness during first contact. I'll serve as the primary pilot, and I'll handle the technical systems, Sophia added. Someone needs to manage the quantum engineering aspects. Lieutenant Nakamura nodded. I'll take tactical. My fighter pilot training should help with weapons coordination. Dr. Walsh hesitated for only a moment. I'll manage the scientific analysis and communication systems. Someone needs to understand how the technology works. That's only for volunteers, General Harrison pointed out. The alien said you need 5. The door to the war room opened again, and a young woman in a communications officer's uniform entered. Admiral Stone, I request permission to speak. Lieutenant. Commander Sarah Park, isn't it? Stone recognized the officer from the communications division. This is a classified briefing. With respect, Admiral. My brother David is aboard the Horizon's Edge. He's been monitoring quantum communications from the alien ship. I've studied the data, and I understand what's at stake. She straightened her shoulders. I volunteer to serve as the communications link. Admiral Stone looked around the room at the 5 volunteers. They were prepared to sacrifice their humanity to save their species. It was the kind of impossible choice that defined critical moments in history. Very well, Dr. Walsh. How long would you need to study the bonding process? The ship will teach us what we need to know, Rebecca replied. But Admiral, once we begin the process, there's no turning back. We'll be forever changed. 7 days later, the modified transport ship Unity dropped out of hyperspace near the quantum vessel in the Kepler 442 system. The alien ship hung in space like a mirage, its hull shifting between different states of reality. This time, however, it seemed more solid, as if preparing for what was to come. Marcus stood in the Unity's cargo bay with his 4 companions. They had spent the journey preparing mentally for what lay ahead, knowing that in a few hours they would no longer be entirely human. Are we really doing this? Sarah Park asked quietly. At 26, she was the youngest of the volunteers, and the magnitude of their decision weighed heavily on her. The hegemony fleet will arrive in 7 days, Lieutenant Nakamura replied. If we don't do this, everyone we've ever cared about will be dead or enslaved within a week. The transport ship docked with the alien vessel using the same quantum merging process as before. This time, however, the energy field felt different, more welcoming, but also more intense, as if the ship knew what was coming. The ascended being met them in the same flowing control room. Its form seemed more substantial now, drawing energy from somewhere beyond normal space-time. "You have chosen evolution," it said, its words forming directly in their minds. "The process will begin immediately. Once started, it cannot be stopped or reversed." Dr. Walsh had prepared questions about the procedure, but as they entered the ship's core chamber, her scientific mind was overwhelmed by what she saw. The room was filled with crystalline structures that pulsed with living light. Each crystal formation was connected to the others by streams of pure energy that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. "These are the consciousness nodes," the being explained. "Each volunteer will merge with one node, becoming part of the ship's neural matrix while maintaining individual identity." Marcus approached the central crystal, which was larger and more complex than the others. As he got closer, he felt his mind expanding, touching thoughts and possibilities that existed beyond normal human awareness. "The primary node requires the strongest will," the being warned. "You will become the ship's central consciousness, but you must maintain your humanity as an anchor point for the others." Without hesitation, Marcus placed his hands on the crystal surface. Immediately, energy coursed through his body as his consciousness began to merge with the ship's quantum matrix. He felt his awareness spreading throughout the vessel, sensing every system and component as extensions of his own body. Sophia moved to the engineering node, her technical knowledge making the integration smoother. As her mind merged with the ship's systems, she began to understand technologies that operated on principles beyond known physics. The ship's power source wasn't a reactor, but rather a direct tap into the quantum foam that underlied reality itself. Lieutenant Nakamura approached the tactical node with military precision. As his consciousness bonded with the weapon systems, he saw possibilities for combat that redefined the meaning of warfare. These weren't weapons that fired energy or projectiles. They fired controlled probability, making enemy ships likely to cease existing or to exist in harmful states. Dr. Walsh merged with the science and navigation node, her analytical mind expanding to process information across multiple dimensional layers simultaneously. She could now perceive the universe as a vast web of quantum possibilities, with the ship able to navigate not just through space, but through probability itself. Sarah took the final node, her consciousness spreading through the ship's communication systems, but these weren't conventional communications. The ship could transmit thoughts directly across quantum space, connecting minds across impossible distances. The integration process took 3 hours. When it was complete, the 5 volunteers remained recognizably human, but they were also something more. Their consciousness existed simultaneously in their biological brains and in the ship's quantum matrix. Marcus opened his eyes, though he could now see through sensors positioned throughout the vessel. "I can feel all of you," he said, his voice carrying harmonics that resonated through the ship's hull. "We're still ourselves, but we're also connected in ways I never imagined." The ascended being observed their transformation with approval. "You have taken the first step toward transcendence. Now you must learn to use your new abilities. The hegemony fleet approaches, and they will not expect what you have become. Over the next 6 days, The hybrid crew learned to operate their impossible warship. They discovered they could exist in multiple locations simultaneously, strike targets in parallel dimensions, and defend themselves by shifting between probability states. The ship's weapons fired concentrated uncertainty, making enemy vessels likely to simply cease existing. But the most remarkable discovery was how their human consciousness affected the ship's capabilities. While the original builders had transcended physical form, they had lost something essential in the process. The human crew brought creativity, adaptability, and emotional intelligence that made the ship far more effective than its creators had ever imagined. On the seventh day, the Hegemony fleet arrived at Earth. Supreme Commander Zixta stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Devourer of Worlds, surveying the pathetic human defenses. 47 primitive warships arranged in a defensive formation around their homeworld. It would hardly be worth the ammunition to destroy them. Begin the bombardment of their outer colonies, he ordered his weapons officer. Show them the futility of resistance. The first wave of Hegemony ships opened fire on humanity's outer settlements. Energy beams that could crack moons reduced space stations to atoms in seconds. The human fleet began moving to intercept, but their weapons bounced harmlessly off alien shields. Then something impossible appeared on Zixtar's sensors. A single ship materialized between his fleet and Earth, but it wasn't like any vessel in his databases. The ship seemed to flicker in and out of existence, sometimes solid, sometimes translucent, sometimes appearing to be in multiple locations at once. "What is that thing?" demanded his tactical officer. Before Zixtar could respond, the strange ship opened fire. But instead of energy beams or missiles, it fired something that made reality itself uncertain around his lead destroyer. The massive warship flickered between existing and not existing for several seconds before finally settling on the latter option. It simply vanished, leaving no debris or energy signature. "Impossible," Zixtar roared. "No weapon can simply delete matter from existence." The human ship began moving through his formation, its weapons creating probability cascades that negated entire squadrons of warships. Ships that had dominated galaxies for millennia were being defeated by concentrated uncertainty inside the quantum vessel. Marcus and his crew fought with abilities that transcended normal physics. Sophia managed the ship's reality warping engines, allowing them to exist in multiple positions simultaneously. Kai coordinated weapons that struck targets across dimensional boundaries. Rebecca analyzed enemy tactics and predicted their movements. Across parallel timelines, Sarah communicated with Earth's defenders, coordinating attacks through quantum-entangled thoughts. The battle lasted for hours. When it ended, the Hegemony fleet had been reduced to scattered debris, their superior technology useless against weapons that operated outside the boundaries of conventional physics. Supreme Commander Zixtar's flagship was the last to fall, its massive bulk flickering between dimensions before finally ceasing to exist. The alien commander's final transmission was a mixture of disbelief and respect. "What have you humans become?" Marcus, his consciousness now permanently fused with the quantum ship, broadcast his response across all frequencies. "We became what we needed to become." In the aftermath of the battle, Earth's population looked up at the stars with new hope. Humanity had not just survived, they had evolved. The quantum vessel remained in Earth orbit, a guardian that existed partially outside normal reality. Dr. Rebecca Walsh, her consciousness now spanning multiple dimensions, began teaching other humans about the quantum technologies they had mastered. Within a generation, humanity would build a fleet of impossible ships, crewed by volunteers who chose evolution over limitation. The mining crew that had discovered the alien vessel had become the first of a new kind of human, still recognizably themselves, but expanded beyond the boundaries of flesh and conventional thought. They were the pioneers of humanity's quantum age, proving that when faced with extinction, humans didn't just adapt, they transcended in the vast community of galactic civilizations. Word spread of the species that had defeated the hegemony not through superior firepower, but through their willingness to become something more than what they were. Humanity had earned its place among the transcendent races, not by abandoning their nature, but by evolving it beyond all previous limitations. Asterisk.